Earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit. Earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit. I like to sing to the earth, I like to hold her. She likes to sing to me, she likes to hold me. I like to sing to the earth, I like to hold her. She likes to sing to me, she likes to hold me. I carry fistfuls of leaves, I make love to the breeze. I carry fistfuls of bones, I trust they will lead me home. I carry grief on my wings, I know I caged birds sing. Through many turns of this moon, my women have suffered wounds, but my grandmother's with me. Close your eyes, can't you see? And my grandchildren are here, the rose, the crow, and the deer. I am surrounded by light, the light of stories. I need to quiet my mind, I need to listen. We are surrounded by light, the light of stories. We need to quiet our minds, we need to listen. Earth my body, water my body, air my breath, and fire my spirit. Earth my body, water my spirit. Earth my body, earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit.
All yours, Susan.
All right, thank you. I just love that song, and grateful that we begin each week by listening, and grateful to our beautiful musician who passed away shortly after recording that. And I feel like this is an honoring for her, for Mother Earth, for all of those who are leaving now and who are choosing to do this, because this is the pathway that we're on. I want to welcome everybody here and greet you, and grateful to be here, and reminding you that we are the River Sidon Peace with Justice Project. We are the fiscal agent for Grandmother's Circle the Earth. And if any of you want to get on the Grandmother's Circle the Earth page and you're not on there, be sure to send us a request and we'll watch for you and be sure that you get on. It's not limited to women. It's not limited to grandmothers. It's to everyone. And it's the opportunity now for us all to share mutually. Somebody said once there are a lot of prayers on those pages, and yes, that's true. And so we welcome you, and we're grateful that you're here with us now. And this is the day that I turn the bundle over to Rodney. So thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you, Susan. Good morning, everyone. Before I introduce our speaker today, I'm going to open with an opening prayer. Father Sky, Mother Earth, all our ancestors, all our relatives, we thank you once again for allowing us to step inside this most sacred circle. I ask Creator and Mother that you open our hearts to the message we are about to receive. I ask you open our minds and help us to walk in a way that is pleasing in your sight. May we take these words and apply them to our life. May you fill our speaker with spirit so you may pass that message on to us. We are grateful for this time together. We are grateful for the circle, and we are grateful for your presence. We ask you bless us with love and truth throughout the week and help us to walk in a way that is pleasing in your sight. And with that, I say, aho. So I'm going to read our intro now for our guest speaker. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome to our 33rd of 52 lessons from our elders and wisdom keepers. Today, we're blessed with the teachings of Chief Phil Lane Jr. Hereditary Chief Phil Lane Jr. is an enrolled member of the Ihan Tonwan, Dakota, and Chickasaw nations and is an internationally recognized leader in human, community, and economic development. During the past 54 years, Chief Lane has worked with Indigenous peoples from the Americas, Micronesia, Southeast Asia, China, India, Hawaii, and Africa. He served 16 years as an associate professor at the Faculty of Education at the University of Lethbridge, Alberta, Canada. In 1982, Chief Lane co-founded the Four Winds International Institute, FWII, with Indigenous elders and spiritual leaders. As well, Chief Phil is chairman of Four Directions International and Compassion Games International. Chief Lane has been the recipient of multiple awards and recognition. He was the first Indigenous person to win the prestigious Wind Star Award, presented annually on behalf of the late John Denver and the Wind Star Foundation. In 2000, he received the Year 2000 Award for Freedom and Human Rights, awarded by the Swiss Foundation. Other winners of this award include Nobel Prize winner Wangari Maathai, the Dalai Lama, Lord Yedi Menhuin, Jacques Cousteau, Yevgeny Yelikov, Vice President of the Soviet Academy of Sciences. In 2008, Chief Lane received the Ally Award presented by the Center for Healing Racism. Particular emphasis for this award was for his dedicated work for more than 19 years as one of the key Indigenous leaders in the resolution of Canada's residential school issue, which involved the sexual, physical, cultural, psychological, and emotional abuse of thousands of Aboriginal children in Canada. The process resulted in a more than $4 billion settlement for residential school survivors. On August 15, 1992, in recognition of his hereditary lineage of leadership and longtime service to Indigenous peoples and the human family, Indigenous elders from across North America recognized Phil as a hereditary chief of the Hinhan, Wakasa, and Deloria Tisopes of the Ihan Tonwan Nation through a traditional headdress ceremony. Chief Lane currently serves as a member of the American Indian Science and Engineering Society, AISES, Council of Elders. He is the host of the Shift Network's Global Indigenous Wisdom Summits as well. Chief Lane is an honorary international advisor to the Health Foundation of the Beijing Women and Children's Development Foundation and is a co-founder and global trustee of the United Religions Initiative. There's much more, but I'm going to stop it there. And we're in for a treat. And with that, I give you Chief Lane, Phil Lane Jr. It's all yours, Phil.
Well, thank you so much. And big hugs to everybody. Thank you, Susan. Thank you so much. So wonderful to be here with you today. You know, as you were sharing my journey, I wanted to reflect back that each and every one of us when we're born into this physical plane of time and space, are born, each of us, a sovereignty, ancient, imperishable, and everlasting. Every one of us. And maybe to begin this sharing this morning, then I want to also have an opportunity people might share questions in writing, but kind of begin with conception, our conception. At that moment of conception, they've now been able to photograph that. There's like a flash of light that goes off. It's at that moment we believe that each of us become a sovereignty, ancient, imperishable, everlasting. That nothing can destroy our soul once it's been given life. Yet the process is quite interesting within the womb, because we start so small, I mean, infinitesimal almost, and we have to see with a microscope. And here we begin this journey. And we go through many different forms and shapes in that journey of 9 months. I've talked to doctors, and I'd heard this, and I double checked, but they say that at a certain stage of the fetal development, unless you're a trained doctor, you can't see the difference between a pig fetus and a human fetus. So we go through these shapes and forms. And while we're in the mother's womb, which is really a world within this world, I mean, when we know a child's coming into the world, the family knows, the community knows, you can see it in this physical plane of existence. All the child's in the womb of the mother. So here we are in this world, to us, that womb world, growing our arms and legs and eyes and ears. What for? Of course, we don't take walks in the womb world, although we do our isometrics, from what I understand, from the outside. I have experienced as a woman. We do our isometrics to get us ready for the journey. We're growing our arms and legs. For what purpose? We're not, in fact, the more we grow them, the smaller the space we have to move. We have no use for our eyes. We have no use for our mouth, because we're being completely fed by the amniotic fluid in our mother's womb through the umbilical cord. So here we are in this world. And in fact, there was such an awareness of how important these early years were, that tribes everywhere on Mother Earth really cared for and respected a mother who was carrying a child. In fact, for the Dakotas, there are certain songs that we sang while that child was still in the womb of the mother. That sound, that vibration. And so here comes the time. We're born to this world. And we don't know exactly when it'll be, just like we don't know exactly when it is that we're going to leave this world and leave my hearse suit behind. But there comes a time when I leave my womb suit, so to speak. And all of a sudden, through this incredible birth process, which I've only witnessed, and I can tell you, I have nothing but the greatest respect for women, and my mother, for bringing me through this process. But then all of a sudden, I die, literally die from the womb suit. In fact, if I use the faculties developed within the womb, as for instance, breathing, I'd suffocate. Of course, because we were surrounded in amniotic fluid, and it's not. So all those things I'm developing and within the womb world in my earth suit have a purpose, and the purpose is to give me the experience of this physical plane of time and space, where I'm growing my soul suit, my spiritual suit, my spiritual body. And just like growing my arms and legs and eyes and ears and strength, I need to move in this world, so do we need also those spiritual qualities of kindness, compassion, justice, courage, love, kindness, sensitivity. All these sacred qualities that go on forever. To be ever forgiving as our Creator, to be ever forgiving, the most kind, the most benevolent, the most compassionate. And so here we are. We're born into this physical plane of time and space, and all of a sudden, this very limited world that we live in, it becomes immense. You can imagine what it's like. In fact, just that was the reason why we bundled children very closely, because and held them very firmly, because we realized the transition from the world of the womb, or the world from which they came from, spirit, into this world, needed to be very, very, very important to feel secure, that child to feel secure. And so here our purpose is to grow our spiritual arms and legs and eyes and ears, so that we might be able to journey on to the spiritual worlds beyond. And so, like my father told me, I remember so many times when I was growing up, he says, son, you just wear out. But when you're younger, you don't realize it. How fast it passes. It passes so quick, so swiftly. Crowfoot, I think he said it best. Crowfoot, he said, was a Pikuni chief of the Blackfoot Confederacy. He said, life's like the breath of a buffalo on a cold day, or a firefly on a warm summer night, or the shadows vanishing before the setting sun. That's life. And I see my dear sister Connie Marlowe here with me. She knows well how quickly it goes. I can remember sitting with her in Aspen, Colorado in 1992. And it seemed like 5 minutes ago. And here we are. Shoot, 1992. How long ago was that? 92. That was quite a few years ago. But it seems like yesterday. And that's why I think that today we have so many challenges before us. It's up to each one of us are responsible to make our own choices. That the Creator has given us this gift of we can make a choice to walk that red road, or we can make a choice to ride, like I call that black road. We can make a choice, but whatever choice it is, and that's why I find indigenous cultures and the old people I knew there, they really didn't make judgments about other people's decisions, because they knew that you're responsible for the results of your decision, the consequences of your decision. So they valued that gift we had to make our own decisions. What I'm going to do also, if we can, if people have questions as I go along, please put those in the chat, because what I like to do is to have questions and go along and discuss things that are of interest to people and so on. Because like one elder shared with me a long time ago, he says, he said, seek to understand before seeking to be understood. Meaning that how can you know what to share unless you know the people's heart you're sharing with? So any kind of questions that are coming up, let's just bring those up right now. This is not going to be kind of that thing I loved when I heard your description of this, that this was not like a regular program, Susan, what I heard, as well as what River, which you shared. So any questions at this time, please put them in the chat. And then River, if you would go ahead and share the question. Let's just start off with a question right off the top. Any questions? If not, I'll continue on. Please.
There's a question from Holly. What is your favorite prayer? And can you share with us or song?
Sure. I'll do both. There's a song that was passed on to me back in 1973 by a dear, dear, dear Koda of mine, George Whirlwind Soldier. George has passed on many years past. He was a Vietnam veteran, went there as a medic. He serves as a medic in Vietnam, and he passed this song on to me. And and I love this song because it's the foundation song from our White Buffalo Calf woman of our sacred pipe of our Ocheti Shikoan. But I love the words because it says, behold this, Wayankie, behold this. And when you're singing this song, you're preparing a pipe, a sacred pipe. You're preparing it, you're loading the pipe. And so as you sing the song, it's putting your mind and your soul in the place to prepare this tool to help you in focusing your prayer. But the song says, Kola Le Chalishu, it says, Wayankie. I got into another song, and I'll sing that later. Wayankie. Wayankie is a term that it's a term that calls upon, summons, literally summons the power of the universe to behold this. To behold this. It's Wayankie. It says Wayankie Chinupa Kile Wakanyelo. So what it's saying is, behold this creator. That Chinupa, the pipe, is holy of holies. But what is it saying, really? Is this piece of stone and wood and animal and so forth? How is that? What does that mean? So what it's saying is it's the mineral people that make up the bowl, the stone, water. There's water, and always in any ceremony, in any place you go, any place on Mother Earth, and I've visited lots of Indigenous people, water is always remembered, water, all the elements. So that's the stone. Is also, it affects the water. Then the stem. The stem represents the plant people, the power of growth. So we have the mineral people. From the mineral people emerged the plant people, and of course emerged the animal people. And the animal people, as we do, have the symbiotic relationship with the plant people, and they breathe in carbon dioxide and breathe out oxygen. We breathe in oxygen and so forth and so on. We can go on and on about those, how synergistic we can see it with the climate change happening and how whole systems are collapsing because we're dependent. Everything's interrelated. And the last part means of the human being, because when you take the bowl, which represents womankind, the power of women, the same as Mother Earth, woman is the foundation. And then you take, we have the spirit of growth of the plant people, the wood representing male. You always have within that pipe, you'll have eagle feathers or eagle claws or whatever, something to represent the animal people. But when you put that pipe together, and I'll just use this as an example, this rattle. Here's the bowl and here's the stem. And you put them together, and that's the human being. That's the human being. So what it's saying is, behold this, the pipe, it is sacred. But what it's saying is all the dimensions of the pipe, but then it says, we, human beings, were sacred beings. And all is sacred. Wayankie, behold it. It's all sacred. So I'm going to sing that song. And this will be in honor of your son that was born today in 1973, Holly. How is that? What's his name? Yeah. What's his name? You have to put on your there you go. Yeah, you got to turn on your speaker. Okay. Write his name in here so we'll know his name. we'll all know his name. We want to remember. Is he still with us? Okay, beautiful. Okay, Gabriel Angel Ortega. KBN. All right. One last time here. It was very interesting that when I first went to India in 1982 and began, doing my best to understand all those various teachings from the Mahabharata, Ramayana, and to visit with those other teachers, that there's a song that was given to me, passed on to me by a beautiful, beautiful teacher of mine, Guru Mai, that says really in essence the very same thing that sacred song I just sang from the White Buffalo Pipe, the White Buffalo Woman song. It's the same meaning. So you take Om Namah Shivaya. It means, yes, the divine self, but also breaks down all the elements, earth, wind, fire, water, to honor all those elements, which essentially that song does. So I'm going to sing that as to bring together both sides of the world, that really the divine spiritual foundation of all life is one. And beyond me being a hereditary chief, a member of the Incan Sioux, Chickasaw nations, a male, all those kind of things, I'm a human being. That's the number one thing we have to remember. We are human beings. We're a member of one human family. That, without that understanding of the oneness of our human family and the oneness of all life, and the herd of one is herd of all, we're not going to be able to step out of this situation we're in right now, which is deepening. Because once we understand, no matter how our earth suit looks like, that the soul that dwells within each one of us is sacred and divine and eternal, and that whether we like it or not, we have a long ways to be with each other. And to understand too, the soul has no ethnicity. The soul has no gender. The soul is a reflection of the oneness of our Creator, the oneness of who we are. So I'll sing this song, Om Namah Shivaya, which was passed on to me back in 1982 when I was in India. And when I first went to India, 1982, I first traveled to India exploring. But it was 1985 that I received this particular chant, which I want to share. Oh, Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya. Oh. You know, as I was singing, I was reflecting on the four symbol systems that, and there's more, but these four basic symbol systems by which we mediate our experience with the world within and without. So if we think about it, we first have the symbol system of mathematics. This symbol system can really chart or map everything in the physical world. Everything in the physical world can be broken down into mathematics. So that's a way we you might say, position ourselves in this physical plane of time and space. But then we have spoken and unspoken language, and that's how we communicate with each other as human beings. But how do we communicate with the unknown worlds? And that's the finest reflection of the arts. You know, whether it be a painting that just takes our heart, or of course, the living ceremony, which is combining, you know, that song, for instance, I gave us, that connected us to a higher power. So the arts in all their finest forms are all ways of the symbol system by which we mediate our experience with the unknown. That's the reason why the arts are so important for our children, for ourselves to be connected with. And of course, the fourth are dreams. How we mediate our experience with our own self is our own dreams that reflect back to us where we're at. And of course, as well, of course, is through these other symbol systems, we have this capacity, like my father said, if you can feel it, you can heal it. If you can share it, you can understand it. If you can feel it, you can heal it. If you can share it, you can understand it. Now that includes, by the way, in sharing, that the tears aren't the pain. The tears are released from the pain. The trembling and shaking out of fear is not the fear, it's a release from the fear. The Creator has given us all these natural ways for us to how do I say it? To keep ourselves healthy and well and strong. River, next question.
There's no other questions, but when you were singing earlier, there was a big orb that flew by you, Phil. Very noticeable. Spirit is present.
Oh, great. It happened there on the screen? I was in brain. Wonderful. So any other thoughts of, I mean, look in here, because I'll continue on. Any other questions you might have at this point? Please. Ann Lynn, Annie, Ann, Tiller, Holly, and Amike. You must be from Holland. Yes, that's I first went there in 1963. My first journey to Holland. I was hitchhiking. Another friend and I hitchhiked all across Europe when I was 17, just turned 18, and I always wanted to go and go to Holland because in 1953 you had a great flood there, where the dikes broke in Rotterdam, and so my father at the time was teaching me about sharing, because it's one thing that's so important to our indigenous cultures. And so they had this thing where you could send gifts over to the people who were suffering from the flood. So he said, son, why don't you get some, this boy doesn't have any toys. There's a boy over there that doesn't have any toys, you know? So I got my toys together or whatever we had, and we put them in a big box and we sent them there to wherever you're supposed to send. At that time, we used to have those kind of things where we'd help each other out. And my dad asked it to be a boy about my age. And sure enough, about 6 months later, a letter came back, not a letter, a little package, had some wooden shoes in them, a few little things from Holland, from Hans Grootmeyer from Rotterdam. And so when I got out of high school, when I just turned 17, I just got out of high school, like I said, was 18 during the summertime. I just decided, another friend and I decided we were going to hitchhike to Europe from a little place called Walla Walla, Washington. So it was about 3,500 mile hitchhiking. So we hitchhiked 44 rides later. We were over there and we're going across the Staten Island Ferry. And of course, went to Europe and spent a year there, just at the same time when they had the Cuban Missile Crisis. So we just happened to arrive in Munich, Germany, when all of a sudden this war was going to happen. You know, this is when the Soviets were sending their ships to Cuba, and President Kennedy said, well, if you send them, we're going to fight, and so forth and so on. And it was really interesting. I called my father because everybody was rushing home and all the planes were filled and so forth and so on. He said, you know, son, he said, I don't think they're going to fight. He said, if they do decide to fight, it's going to happen right away. And he said, there's going to be no way time to get out of there. He said, I don't believe they're going to fight. You earned your money, you worked all summer to spend your year there, go forward. And so what a journey that was. In fact, he was there on a train coming down from Copenhagen. We're on our way from Copenhagen. They have these, I don't know if you've been on these European trains, but they have kind of a walkway and they have little booths. Anyway, this is the way this train was. And we were sitting there and just come across the ferry from Copenhagen to Hamburg. And there were, at that time, of course, that wasn't very long after the World War II. There was a World War II veteran that came and just found his way into our little, the two of us, where we were sitting in a little compartment. And of course, he started sharing in English, and he asked about where we were from. And the first thing he asked about were Indians. And of course, I began telling him some stories my father had told me, and he began to cry. He began to weep. And, you know, to see a man, I'd never seen a man cry like that, and to cry about stories that have been told to me by my father and my family members, just touched me. And so really, it was that gentleman that really helped me on that train, that German veteran, to realize the importance or the power of the stories that have been passed on to me. And so I'll always remember that. And as well as we were riding along the train, I looked to the right and I saw a complete teepee camp. I looked and I thought I was having some kind of a hallucination or something. Of course, but I found that the Germans, and also in other parts of that, of Eastern Europe as well, they have Indian clubs. And they have studied the languages, the cultures, the customs, until they know them better than I think probably most of us do. I talked to this one when I was in California back in the early 70s. I talked to this one Kauai woman. She was the only person of her entire, at that time, I don't know how it is now, of her entire tribe that spoke Kauai. And she was invited to Frankfurt. And she got off the plane to be greeted by 50 German students who spoke Kauai. You know, so this is where I think that, to me, now this is my perspective. I had a chance to travel to several countries that have not been colonized, so to speak. Thailand is one. Of course, my wife of over 30 years is from Thailand. She worked with us on a Royal Thai government UNICEF project we were evaluating there. And the thing about if you've never been colonized, you want to share your culture. They have no problem sharing their culture. They want people to understand their spirituality because they feel good about it. There's no reason not to feel good about it because they haven't been oppressed about it. The same thing I found in Bhutan, another country that was never colonized. Bhutan, the same way. And by the way, it doesn't mean just because of the papal bulls of in 1450s and 90s through there that set up, the doctrine of discovery and all the things that led to all the things we're facing here and now. But it's really interesting in going to Ethiopia in this part of this vision that Black Elk gave us about how to overcome things that are challenging us. And I'll share that. I found Ethiopia, the land of origin, to be so important in what's unfolding. And I want to share this prophecy of Black Elk at this point. The Black Elk, of course, if you get a chance to read Black Elk Speaks, it's one of the most beautiful reflections, I think, that there is today of, you might say, Lakota thinking that has been expressed by Nicholas Black Elk. And he had this great vision when he was younger. And in this great vision, there was these horses from the four directions, red, yellow, black, and white. And they come to this great mountain, the highest mountain of all. And when they come to this mountain, they're broken. They're really broken. They're really hurt. They're broken. And as they ascend the mountain with the last bit of strength they have, they make it to the first level and they're feeling a little bit stronger. The second, the third, and finally, Black Elk said, and I found myself standing on the highest mountain of all. And I looked down below and I saw the sacred hoop of my people. It was a sacred hoop of many hoops. And they were all children of one father and one mother under a great tree. And he said this, and I love this part. He said, I saw more than I could understand. And I understood more than I could say, for I was seeing the shape of all things that live together in unity and harmony. How many times have we been there? I saw more than I could understand. That happens to be every day. And I understood more than I could say. Then he said, I turned to the east and two men were coming flying like arrows, and between them rose the daybreak star for four blossoms, red, yellow, black, and white. They said that with this herb understanding, you shall have power over all things. And I took it and dropped upon the earth, and where it fell, there was no more darkness. And so as that prophecy was part of my life for as long as I can remember, the idea, the concept, by the way, and we're not all red, yellow, black, and white. We're all shades, but symbolically, it was saying from the human family, if you learn from all the human family, that will give you power over all things. Or I'm not talking about myself personally, I'm talking about all of us. As we learn and understand the teachings of the four directions, we all will become to understand that we are one of the same sacred foundation. And so I got a chance to I never thought I'd get to Africa. I got a chance to go there to Ethiopia. And of course, the Ethiopians were some of the first Christians, and they never, how do I say it? They never went out and were colonizing. So you can't just blanket and say, because from there, of course, they're going through many struggles as all the world is going through right now. But it was very interesting because there's no question that of the prior unity, meaning that we all began in the same seed at the beginning of time. We're all part of creation. Our in potentia, because you can take an acorn and you can say, well, look at my oak tree. People might say, well, that's no oak tree. That's just like a nut to me. But no, in potentia, we've always been who we are. We've always been these spiritual beings that have been growing, and now we're at the place where we've entered the day that shall not be followed by night. We've entered the day of the dawning of a new global civilization. And I put in the chat, by the way, something I wrote on that, the dawning of a new global civilization, which is based in justice, but because if you understand oneness, there has to be justice. We're one. There's going to be a lot of forgiveness in the process that has to unfold, but also we also have to, I think, each one of us, the main thing is to clear our own heart and mind. There's nothing I can do about, somebody comes to me, I can give them support, I can give them my prayers, I can give them my unconditional love, but each of us is responsible for our own soul. They say when we go before the Creator or before our ancestors at the end of this life, and if I come there and said, well, I would have done it, but Connie Marlowe, she said this, or so-and-so did this, or so-and-so hurt my feelings, or my mom did this. I say, no one can condition your soul except your own self. No one else could do that. So that's a tough one, because it's much easier to be, in some ways, I shouldn't say much easier, much more painful, that's for sure, to be a victim, to stand up and say, just a minute, no. I have the capacity, one day at a time, step by step, to take full control of my life and whatever happens to me, and heal that, and heal my own soul. In the process of doing that, you can be assured everybody around you will be impacted, without question. Okay, let's go to some more questions. Okay, the white pole. This is actually from, it says, in Dakota, it says, may peace prevail on earth. This comes from a group that started making peace poles after Hiroshima. These are relatives from Japan and Hiroshima that were, of course, the atomic bomb was dropped on them during this month, just about a week ago. And so out of that Holocaust of that bomb, they started this organization for peace. May peace prevail on earth. And so they have these peace poles. They have hundreds and thousands of these peace poles. This was given to me, and they have it in different languages. For instance, on this other side, they have it in Japanese. Let's see if I can do this. And the other side of the Japanese. And there we go. I don't know if I know these pictures are backwards, but you can kind of see that. And so they put these up. In fact, there's one being taken to the Whitestone Hill massacre site by horseback. It was presented last year, so they're carrying it 4 times before they actually put it up. That's how much respect they have for that. So that's the pole. And there's a group called May Peace Prevail on Earth. If you want to know more about what they're doing great work. Great work. Okay.
Phil, I have one quick question.
Sure.
Earlier you said if you can feel it, you can heal it. You also said if you can share it.
If you can share it, you can understand it.
Thank you.
Or if you can talk about it, you can understand it. Or if you can, share it. However, and I was sharing that, not just sharing it verbally, but sharing it with your emotions as well, with your heart as well. And I think that's one of the greatest challenges we have as men. This whole idea about being big boys don't cry. I mean, we're raised with that and it kills us. I think what's the average? We die about 8 or 10 years on average younger than women. But I know we die 2 years.
No, Phil, I was at 8 years old. I was told by my father, don't cry so much.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I became hard and I've spent the rest of my life trying to soften back up to that little boy.
Exactly. I was raised in the same way. You have to be tough. Of course, it served me. It served me during part of my life. It protected me in a way. But at a certain point, it kills you. Because you carry around all this anger and revenge or whatever it is you happen to have or hurt. It kills you. Not the person, many times I've found that you might be upset with them and know you're upset with them. So this is what we have capacity to heal and address. It's right here in our own soul, in our journey. Okay. So Holly, any questions today? Write them in.
Connie,
We're going to have a little dialogue. Connie, please. Connie is referring to a story that I shared back in 1992, and I don't know, Connie, if I can remember quite the story, but essentially, if I'm remembering what the story was, is that in fact, why don't you tell the story? And then I'll pick it up from you, because I know it's a scorpion, but the scorpion in the end bites the person because that's the nature of the scorpion.
No, it's the scorpion's looking for a ride across the river. He's on one side of the river and he needs a ride across the other side of the river. And nobody will give him a ride because he's a scorpion. And then the turtle says, I'll give you a ride. And I mean, I don't know if I'm remembering it exactly. Okay, but the turtle says, I'll give you a ride, hop on. And so the turtle gives him a ride to the other side. And when he gets there, the scorpion bites him on the neck. And the moral of the story is that that's the scorpion's nature.
Yep.
Okay. And what I got from that, and which basically kind of changed my life and my perception of the nature of the universe. I mean, that's what stories are for, in my opinion, for each person to get what they're going to get from it. And to me, the divine has always spoken through story for that reason, with the Indian legends, with the parables, with movies even. I get taken to movies to get told something to do or to get confirmed something. So that's my world. And so what I got was that the absolute loving nature of the universe, it is its nature, period. That it is all love.
Yes.
Okay, and that's what my whole construct on the nature of the universe is.
Right.
Has to do with the fact that it's only love, absolutely.
And also, I think that it's relative. The truth is relative in this. To the scorpion, that stinger he has, or she has, the stinger the scorpion has, protects the scorpion. That's the scorpion's perspective. We see it that way. Now, obviously, if I step on the scorpion bites me, then relatively that's hurtful to me. But the scorpion itself, without that, couldn't survive. So that's the nature, but that's the difference between ourselves as human beings and the natural world around us, is that we have the capacity to change from being a scorpion into a loving butterfly. We have that capacity. The scorpion does not have that capacity. The scorpion is a scorpion, and that's what beautiful, pure nature of the scorpion. That's what the Creator's given to protect the scorpion, or the rattlesnake, or any of these. It's how then it's related to there. Another thing came up when I want to share. I think it's a very, very powerful teaching. Back in 1978, I went to in Alberta to these 4 band communities up close to Edmonton. There are 4 Cree communities, and I went up there. I was helping them to set up how to take over their school system, which was my main purpose there. And I was invited that evening, after we were done with our work, the several day workshop I did, to sit in a ceremony with an elder woman who the doctors had diagnosed as with incurable cancer. And they had a medicine person, relatives coming up from the Navajo Dene people to take the cancer out. So I went there to pick him up at the airport. I remember he came in the Edmonton airport. Just seemed like just a, had a cowboy hat on, some Levi's and cowboy boots. You would never ever realize the healing power this man had. Anyway, so we went, and it was about probably January. It was pretty chilly, cold. It was snow outside. So they had this in this little small home there on the reservation, on the reserve, where they had a fireplace. I know they didn't have a fire. They had a fire outside. And anyway, so they sat me right next to the elder who was dying from cancer. And, they had the oxygen running in her nose. I mean, she was really in rough shape. And so they started the ceremony, started singing. It was the Native American church ceremony. And they started singing. And then he came around right about midnight, and he used a glass, like a glass with a black cloth over it. And he kind of looked, he used that as kind of his instrument. He looked and he said, there's 3 cancers. There's one up here, here, and here. He said, I'll have to wait to take the big one out till about sunrise, but we'll keep praying. But I'm going to take the first one out. And so, and I was there, and I saw him suck that out, this piece of cancer, and spit it out on a piece of paper, kind of like a napkin, to take it to the fire. I mean, it was ugly. And he said to her too, he said, don't worry, you'll start to bleed. And sure enough, right after that happened, you know the difference between the fresh red blood and old blood. Well, fresh blood started coming. And so I was there to help, So anyway, then he started working on other people. And he came a second time. He took a second piece out. And then right about sunrise, he took this third piece out. And it was just, you see it, but it's like, how could this be? How could it be? And so anyway, finally sunrise comes. And of course, at that point, it was time for her to go back and lay in bed. And so he asked me to give a hand, and I'll never forget it, because here, after all these hours of ceremony and prayers, I bumped the oxygen tank And I don't know if you've had these oxygen tanks that people have, but they all start to go shh. And I thought, oh my God, after all this time, when I've killed her now. Something. Anyway, but you know, she was by the next day, she was up doing dishes. The next day she was up and everything was fine, you know. And so after this happened, my friend Sam Windy Boy, he said, you know, he said, brother, let's ask him, what is bad medicine? What is bad medicine? Or black magic, or bad medicine, we call it. And he said, well, he said, I found in my work, there's 4 kinds of bad medicines. The first are negative thoughts, bad thoughts. If you're thinking of negative thoughts about yourself or about others, you're using bad medicine, the same as sticking a needle in the doll, so to speak. The second kind of bad medicine is backbiting and gossiping. Not just doing it, but listening to it, encouraging it. Backbiting and gossip. He says some of the worst is backbiting and gossip. He's the third kind of bad medicine is dirty looks. And you know how, and there's also what I call a no-look bad medicine, which people just kind of turn their heads away, ignore. But there's that dirty look. And the fourth kind of bad medicine, he said, is bad words, saying bad words to people or about people. Of course, the same as backbiting and gossip. But these are to be avoided at all costs, according to the elders, that this is something that destroys the soul of the person. I mean, I'm talking about engaging in it to the person that's having it happen. You've got to find a way to protect yourself, but also the people doing it is destroying your soul by doing this. And sometimes, you know, I remember we were doing this film at Alkali Lake back in 1985. And we did 2 films there, 85 and 85. We did one called The Honor of All, the story of Alkali Lake, where we looked at the alcoholism and so forth. And in 86, we did one called Healing the Hurts, which my dear brother, Phil Lucas, has since passed away. And I remember we were doing Healing the Hurts, and all this stuff was coming up about all this abuse that happened in residential schools and so forth. I remember my dear brother, Phil Lucas, who's passed away some years, telling me, he said, you know, Phil, the only person that can teach the person with the whip what love and forgiveness are about is the person being whipped. And I remember hearing that and I thought, just a minute. I don't know if I can buy that one. Of course, it's true. It's true. You know, I remember as well, you know, my great grandfather, T.P. Sapa, Philip Deloria. He anyway, there's a long story, but Chief Gall, who took him as and had a big Hunka ceremony to adopt him as his younger Misu, younger brother, because Gall realized that they had no choice but to you know, kind of accept what was going on. And so he had looked at all the Christian teachings. He says, you know, he said, all these Christian teachings, he said, are just the same as our teachings, you know, the same spirit, the same, to be kind, to be compassionate, to be, to serve the people, to give your life for others, etc. He says, but the one I have a lot of problem with, he says, is to love those that despitefully use you, or to forgive those things. So this has been a challenge for our human family for a while, but we're in a position now, we have no choice. I mean, either we carry all this stuff inside of us about this happened to us, this happened to us, this happened to us, or we dump it. We find somebody that will listen to us and just listen. Most times people don't, they want us to listen, They want to have the free time. You just listen. whatever they have to share, and let them, because sometimes it takes maybe 30, 40 minutes before somebody can get to their tears, because they have to talk about it, and pretty soon, little by little, you just let them little by little, before you know it, they're right there in their tears in sharing more. Other questions? Kana? Okay. Mari, do you have any questions? Gopa Ross, Karen, Dan, Tiffany, Luana. Any more questions, Connie? My gosh. I think another really, really, yes, please.
Is that me?
Yes, please.
I want to say something. I have a comment more than a question. Just before we started, Phil, we talked a little bit about how you're a couple years older than I am. I just want to tell you what a huge feeling you have given me today of gratitude. As you've named people, as you mentioned Alkali Lake, as you've talked about different stories, because, you know, these are the stories that have been in our age group, you know, and I know how important it is that we continue this. I feel like you reached into my heart and tickled me to remind me that I need to get these stories out there. We need to keep doing this. We need to keep sharing. And, you know, I was a little bit worried that we weren't going to be able to get you, you know, and Rodney and I have been in a panic for the last couple of days, he'll tell you. But I am so filled with gratitude for what you have shared and for the story now that you just told about the medicine man up in, you know, I think you said it was BC, who came up there to help. And I don't know if that was Randolph Thompson, but I know that we just have so many roads that I see that are overlapping each other and sharing. And for all of those who are listening, it's the same thing. Everybody who's here on this week, I can look at you and I can see that you're here over and over. And what a gift, what a blessing. I would love it if you could talk to us just a little bit about the things where we're at right now, about being resilient. You know, I love what you said about the stories. The stories encapsulate medicine. And as we share them, we're passing that on. But I'd love it if you could say something now to about where we are right now, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, reflecting back on the story I talked about, our birth into this world in the birth canal. We're right in the heart of our birth into our beginning of our spiritual adulthood on this planet. And if you can think about it, when they say the hurt of one is the hurt of all, and the honor of one is the honor of all, you can see that what happens to us as a human being in our growth and develop individually is also happening to us collectively. So as a human being, we can see at the beginning, as far as what we know from history, let's just take the Christian Judaic paradigm. You see with the coming of Abraham, this whole thing about families. So we see around the world, families were the beginning structure of families. Then you can see the coming of the tribes. Of course, on the Christian Judaic side, and I'm using that because we have the same teachings we can do over here, but most people are more aware of that. You have the tribe with Moses, this whole tribal understanding. So you have tribes, and then you have the emergence of city-states, which happens to come about the time of Jesus, of the city-states. Then you see nations emerging about the time of Muhammad. Now there's many other of these teachers that have come, like the white buffalo calf woman. The white buffalo calf woman appeared according to my Tahanshi Kevin Locke, around 900 AD. 900. In her songs, in the songs we still sing are her teachings. They were put in songs. Like, I've known elders that knew 400 of these songs, 400. And that's why each of them have a message inside those songs. So her teachings, as well as the Peacemaker, Quetzalcoatl, we had our great teachers across the Americas. I really couldn't figure out for a while when I thought of it, I said, why would the Creator only send the truth and the light to one people at one time in history? And why would we have to wait around, so to speak? We didn't. So I want to share a very good point. I want to share a song from the White Buffalo Calf woman that is her chief song that I think really talks about what we have to do at this point in time. So the song starts, it says, Kola le chele chua. It says, friend, do it this way. Whatever you do in life, you do the very best you can. If you get knocked down, get up. And inherent in that spirit of that song, it says, and if you get knocked down 1,000 times, get up 1,000 times. And if you do that, the Creator's going to see you. Then it says, when one sits in the sacred hoop of the people, one must be responsible. But then it says, but if you do it that way, whatever you ask for, that's exactly the way it's going to be. Exactly the way. That's one of our chief Sundance songs. It's a song that's used throughout, but it's from the White Buffalo Calf woman. She gave that sacred song and many other songs. So I want to share that song with you to give you a reflection back. And then I'm going to talk a little bit more about what the question you had, Susan, about, but this is the qualities we need to have. Hocho Kawashi, you are Takiki, Hipsio Paklio, Lake Tanuki, Takuya Chikuye, that's what it says. It says, friend, do it this way in your life. Do it with all your heart and soul, every fiber of your being. If you get knocked down, get up. You get knocked down 1,000 times or 2,000 times, 3,000 times, whatever, get up. If you do it that way, the Creator's going to see you, but it means you're going to be blessed. Blessings will come. And then it says, when one sits in the sacred hoop of the people, one must be responsible. The whole key to be a good relative. The highest thing we can do would be a good relative. And then, of course, if you do it that way, you have to proceed with the belief it's exactly the way it's going to be. So you have to have faith. You have to have faith in your prayers. It's not just about giving it prayers, it's also listening. And another thing an elder told me one time, he said, Phil, he said, you've got to learn to make time in your life to listen to the answers from your prayers. You've got to make time in your life, space in your life, to listen to the answers to your prayers as you give to the Creator. Because the Creator will speak to you in a quiet moment or a time, and all of a sudden it'll come to you. If you listen well on that. Another thing I think is so important for us to know is that any love we've had for anyone in this physical plane of time and space will not be forgotten in the spiritual worlds to come, nor will we forget this physical life we're living right now. This is just the beginning of a great eternal spiritual journey we're on. We're preparing ourselves spiritually in this. And this is this. If you think about it, there's never been a time when so many people clear across Mother Earth are awakening. Everywhere, people are waking up. Everywhere, people are beginning to realize this this world of materialism, this fantasy world that promises all these happinesses that we're immersed in. You know, if you'll just buy this, or you'll just wear this, or you'll do this. That's why I always loved my father. He always told me, as long as I remember, he says, son, he said, I was born well, I'm going to die well, son. I don't want a part of Pepsodent toothpaste, Preparation H, Fruit Loom underwear, or Diet Pepsi culture. And that's the way he went. The day he went, he told me not long before he died, he had a number of dreams he would have and told me about personally. But he said, son, he said, this is not maybe several years before he went on. He says, I have sudden death syndrome. I said, what? He said, yeah, I have sudden death syndrome. I said, well, tell me, what is sudden death syndrome? He said, well, I'm just going to go. Okay, all right. You have sudden death syndrome. So sure enough, he went down and he went to see, because he, as well as really holding to our traditional Dakota culture and spiritual values, and encouraging me to Sundance and all those kind of things. He also, because of that time when our relatives, only refuge they had was within the church, in their own, of course, for the Dakotas, especially where we could speak our own language and come together. And so he went to the ministry. He said, Father John, he said, I'm going to, this is an Episcopal church or Anglican church. He said, I'm going to die in March. I'm going to die in March, and so I'm going to die at the beginning of spring in March, he said. And so there's certain ways I want to have my funeral. He said, when I have the four directions of church. And of course, this is a very English church. This was an English gentleman. I'll tell you what. And I mean, from England, and nothing against English. Yet he was very strong about the the church. And of course, the pallbearers that were coming to bury my father, carry my father's body, were all brothers who he had mentored at the Washington State Penitentiary. They were former. In fact, it was my choice early on, back in the 70s, when I talked to him about having his funeral, because I thought maybe he almost died then, but he didn't die for many more years. I said, Dad, I think the only men that I think I can have carry that casket of yours are the men from the penitentiary, because they're the only ones that understand the pain you've been through. And so sure enough, there's a bunch of the brothers who had, armed robbery, murder, you named it, had been out, pardoned by the governor and so forth. They're the ones that carried him to his grave, to his burial. But the interesting thing was, sure enough, my mom said that he was just sitting there. He had a place like he likes to sit and look out at the Blue Mountains. It was kind of he liked to look out the Blue Mountains, and my sister had asked him to go downtown, but he had his toe was bothering him or something or other. And she said she went downstairs, she came back, and here he was. His head was just a little bit tilted back. If you have a heart attack, you go forward. He's like this, with a smile on his face. Sudden death syndrome. But I think it's so important, not by the way that we want to, we've been given this gift of life, so we want to be here as long as we can and do our very best in terms of our diet, in terms of our exercise, in terms of our healing. But when the time does come to go to the other side camp, we have to know also that all our relatives will be waiting there for us to come over. They'll know, they know even before the time that we're coming, just like when a baby is going to be born into this physical plane here, we know. And so I think that's something. But what's happening in the world today is a complete transformation. And whatever is going to happen between now and 2030, and I could be totally wrong on this. Sometimes you think you're dead right and you're dead wrong. But everything I can see in my last 54 years of the spiritual journey, that by 2030, we will come to a place where the nation states of Mother Earth will come to an agreement. There'll be no more war. And I see that as the beginning of peace on Earth. Now, what's going to happen between now and then for these nation states to come to an agreement? There'll be no more atomic weapons. There'll be no more war. And if any nation arises to do that, the rest of the nation will rise to destroy the people, or the people trying to do that. I mean, that has to be something pretty heavy duty. And it's interesting that when we went to Israel, let's see, when was it? It was a year ago, last February, just before this whole COVID thing happened. And we purposely went on the 6th of February to Armageddon. We're in the Bible, where the place of Armageddon, where it says that, the 4 horsemen will come and so forth, and the apocalypse will happen and so on and so forth. And we went there with over 20 different leaders from faith tradition from all over Mother Earth. About 120 of us went there, and we went right to the top. And there's a really beautiful video of this, by the way, if you get a chance to see it. There was and I was responsible for facilitating the ceremony, and I felt, and I feel that really it's womankind that's bringing about this, that is so important, that womankind is arising now and really giving and taking leadership. And so in that ceremony, as I was preparing for that, I said, okay, in the center circle, we'll have 22 women. It's praying. They'll do and sure enough, beautiful. There's 22 women from all parts of Mother Earth, all different faith traditions, really gave our prayer. We were there supporting that prayer, and we had the whole process, everybody. But our prayer was to see war end. Because you see in our medicine wheel, it's very interesting. Of these 4 horses, you'll see in Black Elk's visions, they're red, yellow, black, and white. And so for us, the red is a red sunrise that comes from the east. And of course, that's the horse of peace. That's peace. The red sunrise is peace. Of course, in the book of Revelations, that horse is the horse of war. So we really prayed. Could we, war? All this war needs to stop. Well, interesting, because then if you go to the south, the horse of that direction, or you'll see in Black Elk, is yellow. To us, that represents healing. The healing of the new springtime, the healing that comes from peace, the healing. Now, in the book of Revelations, that yellow horse is pestilence, disease. Very thing is happening right now. Now, interesting, as you come along to the west, the black horse is famine in the book of Revelations, but to us, it's prosperity, it's abundance, it's the water, it's the energy from the thunder and lightning and the water and so forth that comes from the west. And then, of course, if you have peace, I'm not talking about from Black Elk's vision, you have peace, healing, prosperity, and of course, when you get to the north, that white horse, which also represents the white of the snow in the north, represents wisdom, not domination, because that white horse, the rider on that is kind of the domination that leads to more war, which leads to more pestilence and disease, which leads to poverty, which leads to leaders rising up saying they have the answer. I'm going to save you. I'm going to save you all, and plunges us deeper into war. The war continues, more pestilence, disease, famine, so forth and so on. So it's interesting. Again, to me, anything that's spiritual has infinite meaning. Has infinite meaning. If it's spiritual, it has infinite meaning. It has some meanings earlier in our life and later in our life. Some things spiritually meant something to me when I was 20, has completely different meaning at 77. Completely different. That's why this fighting over spirituality is, to me, is a dead end. Because each of us has our relationship. And I also want to say too, in the kind words you had to share with me, Susan, that if there's anything I'm saying here that you're understanding, it's because you already knew it or you wouldn't be understanding it. If there's any qualities I have that you're recognizing, oh, that's beautiful quality. If you didn't already have the quality, you couldn't see it in me. We're simply mirrors of one another. Each of us is a sovereignty, ancient and perishable, everlasting. Each of us, every one of us is that. Every one of us. So, River, how are we doing on our time?
Got 3 minutes left. I guess we're going to be wrapping up. Did you want a few words, Susan?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and say a closing prayer,
Okay.
if I may.
Absolutely.
O Tunkashla Wakantaga, creator of the universe, most beloved one, all powerful one, most kind one, most compassionate one, ever forgiving one, O ancient of days, O blessed beauty, we call upon your holy power at this time to infuse us, inspire us, uplift us, so we might be beautiful flames of your love and compassion, ever forgiving nature. We might arise to create a new world where we understand that we're one human family, that each of us is a sacred being. And so we give honor and respect to the four directions: east, from where comes the red sunrise and all the tribes and nations; the east, the south, from where comes new life; the west, from where comes thunder, lightning, and rain, those tribes and nations; the north, from where comes the white snow, all those tribes and nations, in unity, in oneness. I'm going to say this final prayer. I picked this up over 50 years ago, this prayer for unity. Oh my God, unite the hearts of thy servants and reveal unto them thy great purpose. May they follow thy commandments and abide in thy law. Help them, O God, in their endeavor and grant them strength to serve thee. O God, lead them not to themselves, but guide their steps with light of knowledge and cheer their hearts by thy love. Verily, thou art their helper, the Lord. Hallelujah. Shante washtelo. Shunk manu hemeado chinupa saba hemeado. Hallelujah. Shante washte. Aho. It's been a beautiful time being with you. If I could grab this computer and just grab it inside me, I would do it. I had that feeling, just to say a big hug to all of you and wish you a beautiful day. And please, thank you again, Susan and River.
Thank you, Phil. See everyone next Sunday.